Amy and Christina, two moms who learned the hard way that there's a lot we wish we knew about pregnancy and parenting.
So now we're asking experts all the questions, sharing what we've learned and what we're still figuring out, and keeping it real along the way. Welcome to What I Wish I Knew.
Hi, Amy here. I did this next episode solo, and while I obviously missed Christina, I have to say that Dr. Allison Mell is a truly delightful human. She's a pediatric physical therapist and mom of four, including twins, and everything she talked about felt really authentic and relatable. She's got a great sense of humor, which surely comes in handy when you have four kids, including twins. And most importantly, she approaches baby and toddler milestones with both an educated perspective and a realistic type B cool mom kind of vibe. You're just, you're going to love her. I promise.
Allison/Dr. Mel. Welcome to What I Wish I Knew.
Thank you so much for having me. I am so excited to chat with you ladies today.
Right here in the thick of back to school. We're
Yeah.
we're doing the damn thing. We're making it through.
Oh my gosh.
Come hell or high water.
I didn't know that parents, like when I started school back in the day, when
Yeah.
we walked uphill both ways in the snow barefoot, like I didn't know that parents dreaded the school year too until
Yeah.
I became a mom. And I'm like, this is so like it's hard to like switch my mindset back into school mode, staying on top of my kids. I know that's not the goal of our podcast discussion today, but that's where
No.
we're at, right?
No, it's so worried. And it's like, I think it's emotionally hard because you're worried about them, whatever transition they're doing. Physically, it's hard because you're so freaking tired.
Yes.
Everyone's tired, like all the time. It's also physically hard because you have to be doing a million things, drop off, pick up, remembering these things mentally, lunches, homework,
Yes.
clothing, do make sure they have clean laundry. Like it's a lot.
I
And
know.
we don't get the benefit of then like getting to go to school and hang out with our friends all day and like learn
Yes.
cool things. Like we're working
Yeah.
after all
And
that.
I sit there and worry about them all day. Like, are they
Yeah.
making friends? Are they in class with their friends? Were they called on and didn't know an answer? Like we do. We sit there and worry about them. So it's
Can't
ah
turn it off. I
no,
know.
no, we cannot turn it off. And
Well, clearly you love kids. I think that's a
yes,
theme. You have four,
I have four kids.
right?
Yeah. Yes, I do. I have
Yeah.
four kids, ages ranging from 9 to 14. I have twin 14-year-olds who just started high school. So that was like my big transition. And they're meeting all new kids. And I'm like, that's why I'm like, do they have friends? Are they making friends? Because we still worry about that.
Yeah.
And my baby just turned 9, and I call her my forever baby because she will forever be my baby. And I can't believe that, she's entering into the last year of single digithood. And it's a big deal for my mama heart. I've grown up, but I also get the benefit of working with babies. So it keeps me young.
I was gonna say, like, you get your, of all the people who say they love kids, like, you really have to love kids because you
Yeah.
spend all of your time with them, with your own, or then with other people's babies and toddlers. So, yeah, let's start there. Like, what made you interested in pediatric physical therapy?
Yeah, it's so interesting because when I was looking into career options, my parents, the good parents that they were like, go into something medical. You need to go into something medical because people are always going to be sick or need health care, So they're like, you're always going to have job security with that. So, I was a good, diligent daughter and I was like, oh, I'm going to, explore this a little bit. And I actually found myself getting a job in a school system in the therapy room. And I at first actually thought I was going to do speech therapy, but in that environment, I actually found it quite boring, which later on I discovered that speech therapy is actually really interesting. But, I was 17 and in, one environment with one speech therapist, and I was like, I don't think that this is for me. And then I started looking at the PT and the OT, and I was just fascinated by what the PT was showing me and like why this child is opening the door with their right arm and how they're doing the monkey bars and like understanding like the inner workings of the human body of why kids were moving a certain way. And I was like, this is super interesting. And then I went into it, and I went into college, and I started, doing hours at a hospital because we needed to like build up hours for grad school. I went to a hospital, and then I worked at a camp for special needs kids. It's really, 5-year-olds to 21-year-olds, a sleepaway camp for special needs. And I was like, I know that I want to do this and I know I want to work with children. Like it just like it clicked. And I always worked with kids. I was a camp counselor. I was a lifeguard. I babysat. Like the kids just was like my thing, you know? I felt comfortable in that zone. And when I got a job at, in a sensory gym working with kids, like I felt at home. Like I was like,
Yeah.
this is where I'm meant to be.
Oh, what a great
Yeah.
feeling. I feel like, I mean, not that many people have such a strong call, like a vocation that way of
Yeah.
like I just know that I'm doing the right thing with my life and also that you're passionate about it. I mean, that's really lucky. You're fortunate and I think it's
Yeah.
great. I think one thing I'm dying to ask right off the bat, which I feel like is just going to open up so much conversation around physical therapy. Let's focus on like babies and young toddlers. What is your give us the hot take, Allison's hot take on like baby milestones. Like everyone talks about milestones, like you should be crawling, you should be rolling over, you should be walking by this age. Like everyone has those vague ideas in their head of what those should be. Like, what's your hot take on them? And then we can kind of go into what those are.
Sure. My hot take is that all babies should be meeting their developmental milestones. They should all be moving through the sequence of development. They should all be rolling. They should all be crawling. They should all pull to stand. They should all walk. All the things that we know are that those lists of milestones. There's a lot of there are a lot of myths out there of my baby is too chubby to move, my baby is too lazy to move. I mean, my baby's just so in the 90th percentile in weight, there's no way, or my baby is lazy, or my baby just doesn't want to, or my baby is a fifth child and has too many surrounding entertainers that are they don't then want to move. My baby's an only child, so I cater to them too much, so they don't want to move. There's a lot of excuses, I'm going to air quote that, of why babies aren't moving through the developmental sequence for those who are noticing it. Because if you're not noticing it, it means that your babies are doing it naturally. And you're like, oh, my baby just rolled. But for those who are struggling, it really is something that I want parents to know. It's not something that I try to drive home that is for anxiety purposes. I never want parents to feel anxious about it. I want parents to know that this is what normally happens, that you don't really have to teach your baby how to do these things, typically, that they should be doing it on their own. If they're not, there's a reason why, and we can help them with that because we want babies to meet their milestones. They are foundational, they're important, not just for getting around, but for building on top of for future skills.
Hmm. And there are like ranges of wide, I think, ranges of when things should be happening. So you're saying like everything generally happens. Every baby's going to hit these milestones. There's obviously a variance in when that happens. And there are some times where it can happen very early in that range and sometimes very late. And I think a lot of parents probably freak out if they're on the later end, especially if, like, oh, my best friend's daughter walked at 11 months. My daughter's 13 months and she's not walking yet. Like, what would you say to parents who are starting to wonder then, like, okay, I know what the milestones are. Like, are they hitting them? Should I be doing something? Like, what's that all about?
Yeah, there is a range of normal for all of the milestones. And whether a baby hits it on the beginning end of that range, the end of that range, that I don't care about, right? Because the range of normal is the range of normal. So for rolling, it's a 4 to 6 month milestone. Between that age range is when we want babies to be rolling belly to back to belly. Sitting would be just sitting, not getting in and out of sitting, but just sitting would be a 6 to 8 month milestone. That's when babies go from prop sitting to being able to reach in all directions without falling over. Then crawling would be really like a 7 to 10 month milestone. Usually babies actually start transitioning in and out of sitting around when they start crawling. And that's from, going from, through army crawling on their bellies to then pushing up onto all fours, or rocking on all fours and then moving on all fours. So that will happen within that range. And by 10 months, we really do want to see that. And walking is a very big range, 10 to 15 months. Some will even say up to 18 months. I'm a little cautious with that, upper end unless, everything has been a little bit delayed. But 10 to 15 months. And it goes to your point, which is there are some babies who are walking at 9, 10 months. That is so early. And I find parents are most anxious about walking because everybody wants their child to walk. I mean, they're like, when are they going to walk
Right.
already? I'm tired of wiping their dirty hands from crawling all over, right? It's like putting me to shame that my floors aren't clean, right? And so everybody wants their children to walk. And so I'll get all these messages. My baby's 12 months old and not walking, 12 months, 13 months. And that's when I'll say, like, okay, but I'm not worried about that because you have up till 15 months. And if your baby goes 10 months to 15 months, that's the range of normal. So unless we're really getting to the end range and baby's not making continuous progress towards that, whatever milestone we're approaching, if that's happening, then we have to, we want to take a little bit closer look. If we're not seeing a progression of skill, that's when we're like, okay, is baby not on track and we want to step in and help. And I can go into a little bit further detail if that's, where we're going.
Yeah, yeah, no, that's super interesting. You said earlier, you said something like, we don't have to technically teach them how to do these things. Like babies will learn how to do these things as part of their normal development. However, I also know that like as moms, we're being marketed walkers and like the tummy time toys and all the things that that are supposed to like help babies reach their milestones. I'm assuming it sort of falls in the middle where it's like, sure, there's lots of stuff you can do to play with your baby and help, help them have healthy hips and like whatever, sit in a way that will eventually become sitting on their own and everything. That there's stuff you can do because it's enjoyable for both of you and it's not going to hurt them. But it's not a parent's job to be a physical therapist, like to be turning their days into physical therapy because they feel like they should be, right?
100%. I almost never tell anyone that they must buy anything because no toy is going to make sure your baby hits a milestone. There is not one product on the market that is going to make your baby start rolling or crawling or walking. Okay. And the only one that I usually talk about in like helping to facilitate a milestone is really a push walker because I do like those. Some people don't. I happen to personally love them, but that's something that's like one product that I'm like, I recommend purchasing that to help. Are there other things that are beneficial? Like I like a playpen. A playpen is a great product because it gives an open space for your baby to be put down on and can move around freely. Because free movement is the key to the progression of milestones. We want babies to be able to be on the floor as much as possible. So if you have a floor, a blanket, a tummy time mat, if you choose to buy one, a playpen, that's where your baby needs to be in order to meet milestones. Are you going to have toys for your baby? For sure. But you can literally use anything to motivate your baby to roll in this direction or anything. There's no product. If
Yeah.
you are being marketed they have a crawling spider or crawling something, crawling
A crab.
caterpillar,
There's
crab.
a
It's a
crab.
crab. It's a crab. And I know many babies really like it. That is not going to make your baby crawl. It might be fun. It's engaging, but like you're not going to buy that and all of a sudden your baby's going to crawl.
Totally. Oh, what
Yeah.
a surprise. The market is taking advantage of women who are worried that their babies aren't hitting milestones and making money off of it. I'm
Yeah.
shocked.
Shocking. Shocking.
And the playpen thing, Andrew calls the playpen. He's like, I'm putting Marie in jail. I'm putting
Right.
her in her jail. But it's also like, let's talk about the benefits of it, but also the benefits for the parent because it's incredible to have a space that I can put her, that she's safe, that nothing can get to her. She can't get to anything that I don't let her get to. And like I have free hands to help my other kid or to like eat or do whatever I need to do when she's mobile. Like I don't know. I also don't know where they got such a bad rap, but like I think they're freaking great.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really understand why they would get a bad rap when baby gates are sold all over the place. So essentially, we're making our living room into a
Right.
playpen, or our basement into a playpen. Like you're essentially doing the same thing with a baby gate at the top or bottom of stairs, or outside of the kitchen, or whatever you're doing. You're essentially making a playpen of some sort. You're just not. It's not a contained space, but what the benefits of a playpen really are that we are not containing the baby, that we are giving them a space that is theirs. And they make big playpens now. There are ones that are so big that like the babies love being in them. And what I've seen now, I wish I had this when my kids were little, because I don't feel like they were marketed as much. Also, Amazon wasn't a thing. Which is crazy. Like, it makes me so old. Oh my God. But like, I know, but like, they now have ones where like the zipper opens almost like a doggy door, but like, I'm not calling your baby a dog. It's
No,
not a
that's what
pet.
we have. That's
Yeah.
what we have.
And it's so nice because they can like crawl in and out on their own, which like how great. And again, you can zip it up if you want them to be safe, but you can also unlock it, undo the zipper
Yep.
if you want them to have the ability to go in and get a toy or exit on their own. And I think that it's such an important thing if parents want it to have, especially when, you can't necessarily be with your baby 100%, that your eyes are on them 100% of the time. And I will tell you, as a mom who, like, my youngest, my now 9-year-old, like, she, like, whatever, at 2 weeks old, she fell off the couch. Okay. Because I know, I'm like, oh my God. She did. And I panicked, and I'm like, oh my God, my fourth kid, because I was busy with my other kids. My twins had just started kindergarten. My husband was at the bus stop with them. My 3-year-old is in the bathroom. Mommy, come to the bathroom, help me, come wipe me, and I left my baby, my 2-week-old, on the couch, where like they don't go anywhere. And she was sleeping, and I was like, okay, and I hear her crying from upstairs, and okay, she woke up. I come downstairs, and she's on the floor. Now it was carpet. Thank God, she's 9. She's fine. She, like, everything. But my point in sharing that story is not only to share that things happen to all of us. We're all good moms. Things happen to everybody, but you sometimes get distracted for very legitimate reasons, and you think you put your baby somewhere and they're safe, and things can happen. So having a playpen is a great way that you can keep them safe, which would have been a great thing for me to have for my 2-week-old at the time. Again, 8 years and 11 months later, but it's really about keeping them safe, but not containing their movements, allowing them to stretch and move and roll and go through everything that they need to do, so that we're getting the best of both worlds.
Yep. I'm a big fan. Also, bonus, it like hides all the ugly toys if you don't want them strewn about your room, throw them
Yes.
all in the playpen. And I'm gonna be honest with you, I kind of like getting in there with her then too. And then it's just like it feels like really, really devoted one-on-one time with her. She has plenty of room to run around. She can't run, to crawl around and play and do all these things. But I'm there, I can engage with her, I can play with her. Like, it's just, I don't know. It's nice. It's not the prettiest thing to look at in my living room, but it's temporary and it does what it's supposed to. So,
If pretty
um,
is what we're going for with our little babies, then like all the Fisher Price toys and all the everything,
right.
not to call it Fisher Price, but are they all like the most beautiful things that is
No,
decorating our homes? No, it's a stage of life.
no.
You'll get back to the
Stage
beauty
of
one
life.
day.
Totally. I love that. Um, so playpens, I think the idea that parents need to teach their kids how to do these things, myth. Playpens are bad, myth. What are some of the other like myths that you encounter probably on the daily when you're having conversations with parents?
Right. So the other one is, if your baby is struggling and we can talk about what that might look like, that if you're going to wait and see, it's going to fix itself. Okay. This is
Mm,
also something that is not, that I see happens to a lot of parents, where a baby is falling behind, like, and when is not meeting those milestones within those typical time frames. So now a baby is 7.5 months and has never rolled, or is approaching 10 months and can't even push up through their arms, let alone rock on all fours and crawl. Okay, they're stuck in army crawling, and they're just not even able to pull to stand, and nothing's happening, and they're not making progress from there. That they're told over and over and over again, don't worry, just wait and see, wait and see. I recently had somebody in my membership who told me their baby is now 15 months old. And at the 12-month-old visit, I think she told me that she went and the baby wasn't crawling, wasn't making progress. And the pediatrician said, don't worry, crawling's not a milestone. Don't worry, don't worry, don't worry. And yeah, and I'm hearing this all the time, all the time, from 12-month-old, 9-month-old, and now the baby is 15 months old, isn't crawling, isn't pulling to stand, and is certainly nowhere near walking. And the pediatrician is like not concerned. because, 18 months is the age for walking now. So that's why I say I'm hesitant to like open that window further to 18 months, not because we can't give a little leeway on the 15 months for walking, but what makes me upset about that is that we're just allowing more time for no intervention.
Right.
And it's one thing if we're intervening, we're helping, or baby's on the verge and isn't fully there at 15 months, so okay, we can give a little bit of time. But when I see, and this is not an isolated case, I am seeing things like this all the time, where parents are really dismissed. They're actually coming with concerns and they're being dismissed. And that's where I really want to tell parents, when you have a gut instinct that your baby's not on track, no, we don't have to teach every baby how to meet milestones. They should be meeting them on their own. But if they're not, there is a reason why. There's a reason why. And so it doesn't mean that there's something super wrong. It doesn't mean that they're going to need therapy for life. We need to get in there and get to the bottom of why your baby is struggling so we can get them back on track. Because just like this baby in my program, we're really, I feel like we're working at like an 8-9 month level when she's already 15 months. And like I said to mom, I want to get her walking, but we've got to build up those skills. I can't get her walking when she doesn't have the strength. I mean, I often compare it to math. You cannot do algebra if you don't know how to add. And
Yeah.
if we see a child in third grade who still can't add and subtract and they're just struggling and struggling, let's just wait till fifth grade. Let's just wait till seventh
Right.
grade. We don't do that. We don't do that, right? We've got to give babies, we have to make sure that babies have the skills that, yes, most babies are developing on their own, but if they're not, let's give them the support. Why not? Why are parents being dismissed? I don't know.
We hear that a lot, unfortunately, when we talk to people from all different areas, expertise, is that moms are constantly dismissed. Moms are constantly being labeled as being emotional or overreacting or hypochondriac and time after time, like a mom's gut is one of the most powerful tools that we have, but we have to fight to make sure that anyone listens to it, which is really unfortunate.
Yeah,
Um, I do want to talk about you said like if babies aren't hitting their milestones or that you feel like something's wrong or whatever the reason, and you're coming to some like a mom is coming to someone like you said there are a lot of things that could be done. Like you want to figure out what's wrong and how to fix it. So like talk through what are some things that could be wrong and how might you fix them with physical therapy, for example?
sure. So there are a few things that we might see. One is weakness in certain muscle groups. And so we might see babies compensating in a certain way. They're doing things a little, interestingly, but they're really too weak. And so I might see a baby who isn't pushing up through their arms. We really want to see babies like pushing up and pivoting in circles by like 6 months. We might see, some weakness in their hips. Sometimes I see like very wide froggy legs. Like think of what a frog's hips would look like. And if babies, again, by 6 months, we want to see them like narrowing in a little bit more. And so some babies are lacking strength. They just don't have strength in certain muscle groups for whatever reason. And so if we do some targeted exercises, we're going to really strengthen up those specific muscle groups. And so there, those are very easy things that I teach. Again, these aren't things that I would expect a mom to know offhand because they're not all physical therapists. But like they're very simple activities that can be done with anything that you have at home, that will target certain muscle groups that are going to help. Like for example, with the arms, I often show on my Instagram like a wheelbarrow sort of position for babies. You kind of like lay them over your lap and their hands are on the floor, so that we're really making sure that they're weight bearing through their shoulders and not the distribution of weight through their entire body. Because like we need to really target those shoulders now because they're not doing much of the work. Okay, so like
Baby
simple,
weightlifting. It's like
right?
baby body weight like
Yeah,
exercises.
right. So
That's
like
cute.
we're
Yeah.
gonna put them into certain positions that again because they're not doing it on their own, we're going to make, tweak some of their positions to make it so that we're strengthening certain muscle groups a little bit more. There are other babies, and I'm seeing this so much now. This was the example I just gave of the 15-month-old who's not crawling. And I'm seeing this all the time where babies have a lot of tightness. And that can happen when babies have oral ties, a tongue tie, a lip tie, which is often associated with not latching well, not feeding well. And then once we get the latch done, or we switch to formula, which I'm in support, all my babies were formula fed. But once we kind of get over the hump of whatever the feeding struggle is, then it's like forgotten about. But I'm seeing it later on that babies, when there's sometimes tension that starts in the mouth, it can actually lead to tension in the shoulders, the trunk, the hips, and babies can't move easily, or they start to move asymmetrically. They start to compensate. So that's when we'll see an asymmetrical army crawl, only rolling to one side. They might use only one hand to play, or one hand more than the other. They might hitch crawl, like lifting one up, or butt scooting. This can also happen not only with oral ties, but if they have reflux, whether they're the happy spitter uppers or colicky screamers. I've seen it with both, where there's so much tension in the body because they're really uncomfortable that it leads to tightness, and now they can't move. There's also something called torticollis, which is tightness of a neck muscle that causes a head tilt to one side, turn to the opposite side, and that can also lead to similar tension throughout the body. So that's another example. There's also low tone, which low tone is something that we're born with. The amount of tone that we have is what we're born with. And if a child has lower tone, lower than normal, it can make it a little bit harder to activate those muscles and do certain activities. So in any of these cases, these are real reasons why babies are not meeting milestones. And if we're not going to do either the targeted strengthening exercises or the stretches that I teach parents how to do, if we're not going to do that, babies are not going to all of a sudden stretch themselves. They're not going to do some toe touches to stretch their hamstrings, It's not going to happen. They're going to compensate. They're going to find ways to move that they don't have to move that tight arm. And that's going to make it difficult. So that wait and see that parents are often told, I mean, it's fine if they're, going through the developmental progression, they're doing things nicely, but if they're stuck or they're moving in atypical ways, it's not going to fix itself on its own. And I wish parents weren't given such a hard time about getting that help.
Totally. Well, it's both sides. I love the message you're giving. What I'm hearing is like, on the one hand, you don't need to freak out. You don't need to teach your baby to do these things. Like, don't freak out. Let your baby develop as they're going to develop. And that's great. And if they're not doing what they should around the time that they should, or a little bit after when they should, then totally great. Seek help. Learn
Yeah.
more about it. Educate yourself about how you can help, like seek professional help if need be. It's like it's great for the type B moms and the type A moms. You know what I mean? It's like
Yeah.
you can just sort of let things be. And then once things have run their course and they're not working out, like there's another option for you. And that is get help, because some of these things are not going to resolve on their own. But it doesn't mean, like you said earlier, like lifelong physical therapy, like a horrible diagnosis. Like, I mean, there's so many
Yeah.
reasons why, like you just outlined, and they're sounds like pretty simple to address with like a little bit of time and dedication and
Yeah.
learning about what's going on.
Yeah, when parents join my program, my membership, we're seeing really quick progress. I usually tell parents I want to see some amount of progress within 3 to 5 days. 3 to 5 days of
Oh,
some
wow.
progress. Doesn't mean we're hitting the next milestone in that time, but your baby starts tolerating a stretch a little bit better. They can start pushing up. And I'll tell them also, and this happens all the time, where I'll say, okay, we're going to start with some stretches because your baby is super tight. They have a history of oral ties. Maybe they also had reflux. I teach them in my courses, or I go through it with them on the live group calls that I run. We'll go through some stretches, and I'll say, okay, take a look, spend 3 to 5 days doing these stretches a few times a day. And often parents will come back to me and be like, I just saw my baby do a new movement that I never saw them do before. Because now we like unlocked, we took a key and we unlocked the locked door, because all of a sudden they were able to use that arm that they weren't able to use before. And now they were able to push themselves up into sitting because they couldn't do that before. So it's very like parents are shocked when they're like, and I say, We didn't have to teach them that skill because
Right.
now we just enabled them to use the muscles that they have. We just unlocked it. Sometimes we do have to help them and teach them certain things. It depends on what's going on. But sometimes, again, just giving them certain strength or relaxing the tightness, then, and this is where it proves what I'm saying is true, which is these are natural movements. These are natural movements that all of a sudden a baby will start pushing up onto all fours who is an army crawler for 4 months because we strengthened those muscle groups and now they were able to do it on their own.
Yep. I love that. I want to ask you, so Christina and I both have daughters. Christina's daughter is like 9.5 months, mine is 10.5 months. So we're like entering the walking phase. Um, and I have been having many heated debates with friends around shoes, baby shoes, because our school does require shoes once they are basically like pulling up and standing and like close to walking, which Marie is, I think. And also as the weather cools down, like they go outside all the time, and obviously babies will just snatch socks right off. So they were like, we need shoes. So that's fine. I'm happy to kind of do that. But then I was like, okay, let me find the right shoes. Okay, well, I'm like Googling early walker shoes, like shoes that are good, shoes that will help babies walk, which now I know is bullshit. Like
Yes.
and then you go down to a rabbit hole of like, oh, is it soft sole? Is it flexible sole? Is it hard sole? Should it be late? Should it be like, oh, what's the
Yeah.
deal with shoes?
Yeah.
Wide toe. Yeah, there's so many options. Like, what do we do? Tell me.
Yeah. So the shoes, there are a few things about shoes. One is you're right. They're not going to help your baby walk unless there are specific cases that I do recommend shoes when there's a lot of like ankle or foot instability. If we really have an ankle that's unstable or baby's really having a hard time balancing, there are certain cases where we will put on shoes and that will help. For most babies, they will walk without shoes, and it's actually barefoot is better for the development of the intrinsic foot muscles, strengthening of those muscles, development of the arch, and sensory input. Those are all great things to have when baby is barefoot. That doesn't mean that you should quit your daycare and only send to like an outdoor, we want babies walking in the mud. Like, it's fine. It's okay. And, when baby's home with you at night, you can take off the shoes and walk around barefoot. That's totally fine. But what then are we looking for if we're going to put on a shoe? And I usually do recommend waiting to get a shoe until your baby really is independently walking. Because babies, I'll hear from parents all the time, my baby's on the verge of walking. And they're like, it's another 2 months until they're walking because they look like they're on the verge, but like they're really not there yet. So waiting until they're really independently walking, taking a few steps on their own is totally fine to wait until that point. And even after, keep them barefoot. But if you do send to a daycare that requires shoes, that is totally fine. You don't have to find a new spot in a new daycare. We want to find shoes that have a very flexible sole. I want you to be able to bend them and point flex, all that kind of stuff. We don't want a rigid sole. We do want what you said, a wide toe box. We want the toes to be able to wiggle around. I'll be honest, most shoes are made like this now because those are the recommendations. Now, if you search on Amazon, most new walker shoes are just like that. The soles bend. They don't need to have arch support because they don't have an arch at this stage, right? They don't need to be extremely supportive because, as I just said, babies shouldn't need shoes to learn to walk. So if they can go barefoot, they certainly don't need a supportive shoe to learn, to start walking with. So anything we don't want a slippery bottom. That's for sure. We don't want something that's
Mhm.
slippery. We want something flexible and something that's wide. I also always recommend going for Velcro rather than tie shoes. Even though people think the tie shoes are super cute, I do not understand why anybody would want that. I
No.
mean, like, we need something else for them to trip over or lacking independence with. Like,
Right.
this is not
No.
necessary at this stage.
No.
And so I get asked all the time about shoes. There are so many on the market that are Nike makes a great one that I actually did a collab with them on this new shoe. It's called the Nike Swoosh One. But there are so many out there that are like that. They're flexible. We're not looking for anything that's like, wow, this is recommended by a PT. We just want a simple, wide, flexible shoe.
Got it. And one that's not hideous, preferably. I just
That's
added
true.
that one for
Yes.
myself.
Less hideous. Good. Yes.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, cool. Shoes, check. Now I need to pass all this along to my husband, who's also in the market for shoes for her, so we can make sure we get good flexible ones. Yeah, I do want to talk about also, we talked a little bit about like the signs that babies are like, as they're progressing through, they can start to pull up on their elbows, they're rocking back and forth. What are some of the signs that a baby is like truly close to independently walking? Like what happens leading up to walking?
Yeah. So the progression of walking is firstly being able to pull to stand through a half kneel, or what I also term as a proposal stance. If you were going to propose to somebody with one knee up, that's how I'm looking for that baby to transition into standing. So they're going to propose to the couch and pull up on it. Okay. And as they get better at that, they're using more of their legs, to push through their weight versus pulling. Because some babies, oh, my baby's pulling to stand, and they're actually pulling and like their legs are just kind of following along. So I always look qualitatively, but that can develop over time. So just watch and see if that progress, transitions. So we want babies to be transitioning through that half kneel or proposal stance on either the right or left. They should be able to go back and forth. Sometimes they prefer one over the other, and that is okay as long as they can do either one. Then we want to see them start to cruise along furniture. So they're sidestepping. Then they are going to pivot and going back and forth between different pieces of furniture that you have around the room. Then they might start pushing more weighted things like a solid box, like a diaper box filled with diapers, not something empty, or a dining room chair, something that's really solid, but they're going to start pushing things. Then this is where that push walker comes in. They're going to start pushing things that are less stable, that are on wheels. And that's why I actually like the push walker, because it actually helps them learn how to control the momentum, right? Like if they're only pushing a solid thing, they don't have to grade their own force, right? So a push walker I do like because it kind of gives them a little independence to explore around. And they're going to learn how to not like lean far forward or, hold themselves out, engage their postural muscles. We might see some independent standing. A lot of people are waiting for them to stand independently. A lot of babies don't stand independently for a long time. They might stand for like a few seconds where they let go. And that's usually when when they're really standing on their own for several seconds, even if it's near a couch and they kind of, move against it. Or if they're holding your hand while walking and like you're like giving them your pinky and they're basically doing it all by themselves, that's when they're pretty close to the verge of walking, is when like they almost need no support when walking, or they're really even letting go and they're feeling confident with that. And then eventually, and it can take some time even from then to get those independent steps, because walking, I compare to riding a two-wheeler, learning how to ride a two-wheeler. They have to find their new center of gravity that they haven't had to do before. They've always either crawled or held on. And it's very common for babies to crawl while they're also pulling to stand and cruising and moving around. We want babies to crawl for a long time. So let them do that, and don't be like, oh, they're always crawling. Like, that's okay. So when they're going to take those first independent steps, it's really like learning how to ride a bike, where you have to find that internal balance. Again, once they find it, they're never going to, fully go back to crawling. They'll really learn to walk. And so it just takes a little bit of time. Sometimes it's a little lack of confidence. Sometimes there's some strengthening in certain elements of the body. If they're locking out their knee or they're leaning forward, there are certain things that I look for, but that's typically the progression towards walking.
So helpful. I'm like going through my mind of what she's on the push walker very confidently. And in fact, we have one of those, those roller coaster toys for
Yep.
toddlers
I
where
love
there's
it.
like a little cart that they like. So Miller, my almost 5-year-old, will sit on the cart and Marie will push him like like a sled. So she's pushing like, I mean, it's on wheels, so it's not really that hard. But the one thing that we did with Miller as well that we do with Marie is with the push walker, we lock the wheels at first, because when they're unlocked, to your point of like they when they go from having tons of resistance, like trying to push a couch or a chair or something that's heavy, to like something that has wheels that will just take off. I mean, Miller used to wipe out and like really hit like almost hit his face and stuff. So we would lock the wheel so it was still like rollable, it was pushable, but there was more friction.
Yeah.
And that has really helped a lot because she can now move pretty quickly, and I feel like we're going to unlock them soon. But that was one way we like transitioned her, was just like she started to get comfortable holding it and taking steps with it, but it wasn't like a free for all yet.
Well, and that's why I
And
say it's part of the progression, right? Because it goes from being able to push like something along, they can take steps forward, but there's something heavy resisting backwards, so that they,
Yeah.
because they're using momentum to push forward. They don't have the engagement of, this is going clinical, of like the co-contracting their postural muscles, their core muscles and their back muscles, to be able to maintain that upright posture. So they're going to lean forward. So something's on wheels, they don't have that control to pull back and stand up straight, right? And I'll add into that part of the progression that I forgot, which is when babies start pushing that push walker. Well, then you know how like sometimes you have your older one, they get stuck at the end of the
Yeah.
wall and you have to go save them. So that's another part of the progression. Can they turn that push walker then? Because like that's a next stage, right? So that's also, I'll fit that in there between the pushing a push walker and the standing independently, is usually when then now they can turn the push walker. Because it's not only can they stand up, they can control their movement so that they're not like falling, but they actually have control to pivot and turn while they're standing, and they're not like leaning on something and requiring that
Right.
help.
As opposed to Marie, who right now runs into something and then goes, bang, 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 until
Right.
someone comes and saves her or she screams and we're like, turn
Yeah.
around. She's
And
not
that's
there
why I
yet.
say at 10 and a half months, she's not there at walking yet, right? Because when I hear back when people, oh, my baby's on the verge of walking, and like they tell me where they're at, and I'm like, your baby's not on the verge of walking. Like,
Yeah.
it's okay. They don't have to be. But like it takes a lot of time. And people say, oh, but they've been pulling to stand since 8 months. And I'm like, yes. And so walking is a whole new skill. It's a big, big jump of no assistance and, letting go. Again, riding a two-wheeler is a big deal, right? They can be
Yeah.
riding a tricycle for years until they learn how to ride a two-wheeler. It's a big jump.
Totally. These tiny little feet. If you think about it, they're going from hands, two hands,
Yeah.
and knees, legs, to like these little tiny fat feet that have no practice being used at all,
Yep.
besides to like propel them forward. And then the balance and the core stability and all these things, like it's really incredible that they
Exactly.
learn to do it on their own ever, much less
Yes.
that when there are issues, you can easily rectify them and like make it so that they can walk again.
Exactly.
Like it's kind of crazy
Yeah.
if you
It's
think
it's
about it.
amazing. It's amazing what
Yeah.
the human body is capable of doing.
I know. Another question about walking, which I'm curious about, is have you seen, is there any correlation from your perspective if one kid, you've had four kids, like if one kid walks at a certain time, is there any relation to when others will, or every baby is completely unique to their own timeline?
It's a good question. I've seen it both ways. I've seen some families where they're like, all my babies walked at 14 months. And then I'll have another one who says, I don't know what's going on. My first baby walked at 11 months, and here I have a 14-month-old who isn't walking yet. So I've seen it both ways. And what parents need to remember is that the range of normal is the range of normal. So
Yeah.
just because your first baby walked at 11 months or 14 months, relax. I am totally more type B in everything. I'm not a type A person. And it doesn't mean I'm dismissed or like relaxed and I don't care about anything, because I guess that would be more type C. I care, but I think that we don't have to be overwhelmed when we're just looking at the range of normal. Earlier does not mean your kid is smarter and is going to have a higher IQ and get into a top law school. Like it really, or be on the basketball team. Like it really doesn't indicate, because we have to remember we're talking about a matter of like weeks, months,
Yeah.
like in their whole lifespan. Whether they walk at 11 months or 13 months or 15 months does not make a difference in their full lifespan. It just doesn't. So
Um,
remember that there's a range of normal, and again, back to what I said, it's range of normal. Let them do it, but if there's a problem, don't be scared to pursue that.
hmm One other anecdote that I want to have you either debunk or confirm. My mom has always said that she found there's four of us as well, no twins, four births. Um, she always said that she found that all of us walked at different times, but she said that whoever, like, she either found that babies would walk earlier or talk earlier. Like, if they walked earlier, they spoke later, and if they spoke earlier, they were generally a later walker. Is that true at all?
I
Have you
have
heard of
heard
that?
that. I have heard that. And I will say with one of my kids, my third technically my third. But I had 3 kids in 2 years because my third was born almost exactly like 2 years and 2 weeks after my twins were born. So I was quite overwhelmed at the time. And I hadn't had a lot of experience with babies yet, but he rolled on time. He sat on time. He was a late crawler and a late walker. And again, just by a little bit, it wasn't far, but I think he did walk closer to 18 months. And I think at the time, again, I wasn't really working with babies, and I got him evaluated, and he had some physical therapy for like a month, but then he did do it. But he was talking 3-word sentences by 16 months. He was, and by the way, he is a great kid. He's not, he was on the soccer team, but he's not highly athletic. He does well in school, but he's not a genius. Like none of that indicated anything is my point. Like I don't like to throw my kids out there for like, talking about them and what they accomplished. But my point is it didn't really affect one way or the other. He does well in school if he studies, and that's what it is. Just because he spoke 3-word sentences at 16 months didn't, mean anything long term. But I happen to have noticed that with him. I have heard that. I do believe that there's some truth to that in terms of, it can be that one area of the brain is hyper focused. I still go back to, we don't want to use that as too much of an excuse that if babies aren't moving along, meaning we have to still watch, is baby continuing to make progress? Are they trying to move? Are they certain things that we want to make sure that they're still on track with development, that they're still moving forward, and not just say, oh, it's because my baby babbles so much that they're not doing other things.
Right.
Like there's, there might be some truth to that. I don't think it's completely off the charts, but we don't want to overdo that so that we're not going to get help if baby needs it. I hope that makes sense, because
that makes total sense.
It's still, there's no like exact formula, but it's something to keep in mind, but not overdo.
Right. And I mean, I think it's what's true for one family might not be true for another. Like, do I believe that across all 4 of us, like whoever spoke first walked later? Like maybe that's true. That could be a total coincidence as well.
Yeah.
So it does, it is what it
Right.
is.
Right.
I want to ask you about another trend. We talked about shoes earlier, which I feel like is just like a hot topic for parents who have kids between the ages of, let's say, 10 months and 2 years or whatever. But another trend that I actually have seen a little bit more of is baby chiropractors. So I have heard a couple of different like sort of stories or applications. One was we know someone, my husband and I, who their toddler was having an insane amount of like ear infections. And she started going to a chiropractor and they like went away magically, hasn't had one since. And like stories like that. I know that
Chiropractic care.
chiropractic care, thank you, is not necessarily like your wheelhouse, but do you have a POV on that? Like, what do you think?
Yeah. When I was in PT school, PTs were like very against chiropractors. It was like, we don't like chiropractors. We don't support chiropractors. In my practice now, I have sent many families to a chiropractor. There was actually a baby recently in my membership who mom joined with her second child. She was one of my first members when I started the program 3 years ago, got her baby moving, crawling, walking. She joined a few months ago with her second child, and this baby had reflux and oral ties and all the things of tightness. And so we were working through the stretches, and she was in the program now for like 2 or 3 months, and she would come to my calls and we were not seeing consistent progress. She'd see a little progress and then regression, some progress and regression. And I said to her, I think we need to go to a chiropractor now, because, and again, I rarely make recommendations, but I also am very like, if we're not seeing progress, then I'm not the one-stop shop. Like sometimes we need to go elsewhere to call in extra support. And I said to her, we should be seeing progress. And if we're not, there's something else going on. I think we need to see a chiropractor. I think that there's something going on with alignment that is not allowing the muscles to move. And so because of the alignment challenges, then any stretch that we're doing, it's just reverting back because of the alignment. She went to a chiropractor, and basically what I said was 100% true. She had a lot of her joints were really tight. The alignment was off, and she then said, okay, I'm gonna take a break from the program while I work on that right now. And I was like, power to you. Like, let's get your baby where she needs to be, and I'm just here to support you any way I can. And I have seen a lot of success with babies who have even been in my program along with seeing a chiropractor. What I will say in terms of a chiropractor is sometimes it's not solely enough, in the same way that this baby, my program or PT or stretching and strengthening activities was not enough, and we needed to add in the chiropractic care. I often see other people who have gone to a chiropractor for many months and they're not seeing progress, because
Right.
sometimes we're adjusting the alignment, but the muscles are tight, right? And so a chiropractor is adjusting the joints, but they're not doing anything with the muscles. So if somebody goes to a chiropractor, again, we want a good chiropractor. We want somebody that knows what they're doing, but sometimes it's enough on its own, and often it's not enough on its own and needs to be in combination with something else. So I'm really not opposed. I haven't personally experienced the ear infection, but I have heard that too, that chiropractors, that they can help with ear infections, they can help with GI issues. And I do think that there's truth to that, of when our alignment is on, that our body can function better the way it's supposed to. And if something's not aligned properly, it can really throw off the whole homeostasis of the body.
Yeah, that makes total sense. I've
Yeah.
never been to a chiropractor, but I'm so intrigued. I'm like a little scared because it sounds so violent when they like adjust your back, or like you hear these like funny stories of the sounds that it makes and stuff. I'm like,
Yeah.
maybe next year.
Yeah,
We'll see.
yeah. I did go to a chiropractor for myself for sciatica, which is
Oh,
the sciatic nerve that runs down. And I was feeling it in my glutes for a long time, and I was stretching myself, and I knew all the activities to do. Right, I happen to have very tight hamstrings, but I don't do anything about that because I just do. And and I did go to a chiropractor, and the adjustment on the joint, I thought the pain was coming from what, I was using my PT brain. Oh, I think this muscle is tight, and I think this is what I have to do. And it just kept coming back, kept coming back. I went to a chiropractor, and the adjustment around the spine and the pelvis, it really did make a difference. So again,
yeah.
sometimes the origin of where the issue is needs to be addressed, and we have to find what the origin is.
Yep, totally. Super interesting. One question we ask everyone who's on is a what I wish I knew question. Um, I would love to hear, what is something you wish you knew as a parent? You have four kids, twins, and then two more. Like, bless you. Love to hear your
Okay.
answer.
I was thinking about it recently, that I'm like, if I could go back and do it again, 14 and a half years ago, gosh, I would be so much better equipped. Right. Because and I do reflect back on, all the mistakes, everything from leaving my baby on a couch at 2 weeks old, where I now spilled to everybody here, all my biggest mistake, which thank God didn't lead to anything, a big deal. I think that I wish I knew that my gut was right. And I wish I knew that I didn't have to worry about being that mom. It really, if I have to sum it up, I think that would actually be where it's at. I wish I knew that I didn't have to worry about being that mom, because
Yep.
so many of us in today's day and age, it's almost like the pendulum is swinging. Like we were overloaded with so much information that we feel like, okay, everybody frowns upon, oh, you're going to a doctor and you just use Dr. Google. So now you put in all your symptoms, and now you're thinking that everything is a terminal illness, when the doctors are like, no, come on, stop using Dr. Google, use real practitioners, etc. And I think that as parents, we're so nervous about being like, the crazy parent, we don't know how to draw that line. But yes, there's always going to be a balance. You don't want to like, call your pediatrician's home phone number 12 times a day. Like, don't do that. Okay. Don't be that mom. All right.
Yeah.
But, worry about being that mom. But I also think that you are your child's best advocate. Nobody cares about your child the way you do. Nobody,
Yes.
except your spouse, the other parent, whatever. Like, nobody cares about your child the way you do. And so if you think that your child needs more help, whether that is you need a second opinion on a medical thing, you need physical therapy, you need a tutor, you think that they should be in a different class with different kids, whatever, okay? It doesn't matter what that is. At the end of the day, if you don't ask, you're not going to get it. And nobody else is asking for your kid. Nobody else is going to do it. So we
Yep.
don't have to be, oh, we don't have to overdo it. We don't have to fight all of our kids' battles. We want, we want to balance that out with like letting them, be independent and become their own people, and I
Yeah.
speak that, because of this, the stage that my kids are in, but we also can know when it is important to step in and help them
Yeah.
and make sure that they have the leader of their team is doing their
Yeah.
job.
I love that. I love that. Well, Allison, where can people find you if they want to work with you, they want to learn from you? Like, where are you?
Sure. Well, you can follow me on all social media accounts at Tots on Target, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, Pinterest, whatever, all of them, YouTube. And you can also find all the information about my program on my website, totsontarget.com. It is a monthly or annual membership where parents can come and see my self-paced courses for all the milestones, plus baby massage, and you get direct access to me at all times. So sometimes I do sleep, but like you get access to me at all times. So I will be there to help you. I run my live calls. I interact with my members all the time. I'm there to support. I really love working with my members directly. So it's a program that you actually get access to me directly. It's called the Tot Spot. And again, you can find more information about it on my website, totsontarget.com.
Amazing. Thank you so much for giving us your time today. I'm going to spend the rest of the afternoon buying new shoes for Marie.
Great.
So off to research that. But thank you so much again. We love talking to you.
Thank you so much for having me on. Appreciate it.
If you found something helpful, insightful, or just plain reassuring in this episode, be sure to subscribe so you don't miss the next one. And if you have a moment, leaving a quick review helps more parents find us.
We're also always looking for great guests, so if you know someone or that someone is you, please reach out. You can find us at whatiwishiknew_ or whatiwishiknew.life.
Thanks for listening. And until next time, stay sane, stay calm, or at least fake it until bedtime.